Welcome to another live edition of Pittsburgh Sportsline Tuesday night in the BP TV studios. I'm Al Levine here, the talking machine. I got Chip Hayner with me. Sad news for Smoking Jim Frazier. No, he's not in the hospital or anything. Health-wise, he's fine. Him and I did a boxing match Saturday night, had a great time. Had Steve the intern help us, but tonight he does a show called Championship Chase. It got moved up from Thursday night to Tuesday night, so they're taping it now as we speak, and he can't be here on the show. So Chip and I will try to do our best and have some good conversation, and as you know, there's always something to talk about in the sports world. So thanks for watching us on Comcast 7, only in Bethel Park, Verizon 32 in Bethel Park, and all the way from Nemacolin to Cranberry, Wexford, we have viewers. So thank you to all of you. Thanks on Facebook. We had a brand new high of 6,540 likes. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Before we get started with the show, I do have some promotional stuff. Olive Oil's Pizzeria right here in Bethel Park, 412-831-1900. Tell them the talking machine sent you. Order your pizzas, hoagies, whatever you want, salads. They even have gluten-free. You name it, they got everything there. So check them out. They sponsor our show tonight. And we always end our show with Stay Joey Strong. Here's Joey before he had DIPG and after he had DIPG. It's a brain cancer that took his life before he was 9 years old. Go to Joey Fabus Childhood Cancer Foundation, donate as little as $1, and check out their events that they have happening on their webpage. So, and they're right here in Bethel Park. Dave and Cindy Fabus and all the kids, they're still around and they participate with all the Joey Fabus events. All right, Bethel Park Historical Society has the Schoolhouse and Art Center right there on South Park Road. You can see the trolley. If you see the refurbished trolley, they put 107 windows in there. It's fixed it up. They rent it out. It's a great place to go there. They have a nice library. A lot of historical things are there, so check that out. A couple more for you. Bethel Park Community Foundation. I'm a trustee on that board. We have money for you in your group in Bethel Park from $100 to $5,000. Get an application at bpcf.org. That's bpcf.org. Get an app, apply, and we'll see if we can help you guys out and fund your group. One last thing, Dave Cable likes to have fun at my expense, and I go along with it. Look, I look like Uncle Sam. I want you on BPTV, 412-831-3304. Give Dave Cable a call. Yes, that's his name. He'll have you behind the scenes here. We have a new intern. Johnny Mariano is in the soundboard. Devin Shea. We have the Rookie of the Year, according to Smoking Jim. Steve helping us out directing. So that could be you in our studios and elsewhere when we venture out. So thank you very much. We start our show off with What's on Your Mind, and Skeets Lewandowski, the owner of Skeets Service Station, will sponsor What's on Your Mind. And he's right in Finleyville. Anything that runs on gas, he fixes it, works on it. Lawnmowers, cars, trucks, boats, you name it. Right down in Finleyville. So check it out right on 88 past Mineral Beach and Trax Farm. Check out Skeets. We're going to start our show without Smoking Jim Frazier. So I get asked, Chip Hayner, what's on your mind?
Thank you, Alan, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to our humble sports talk show this evening. It's my pleasure to be to my dear friend Alan Levine's left here, and we will do our best to entertain you and maybe even enlighten you this evening. Who knows? Why can't we all just get along? That's the question that keeps going through my mind. But if you really want to know what's on my mind, I am a very active baseball fan. I support the Pittsburgh Pirates wholeheartedly, even though I've been very disappointed with their performance on the field this year. I have renewed my season ticket commitment for next year.
Chip.
So I have not lost faith.
Good.
Now, that being said, little something happened in the world of baseball last week that I think is going to bring change to the game. And I was always a person that was against this type of a change because I believe that when people are at the ballpark, that they need to get their heads out of their cell phones and anywhere else that might be, and pay attention to the game, especially when the pitcher's on the mound and the batter's in the batter's box. So what I'm referring to is a horrific incident that happened at Yankee Stadium last weekend. Todd Frazier, a player for the Yankees, fouled a ball off, and it went into the stands in a 105-mile exit speed, and it hit a 2-year-old girl in the face. She was very badly injured. Unfortunately, she did not die, and it's going to be a long road until she's healthy again. And that brings me to, I believe, a change that I believe that Rob Manfred, the commissioner of Major League Baseball, has no other choice to make than make it mandatory for all the teams in Major League Baseball. As it stands right now, 10 teams in Major League Baseball, the Pittsburgh Pirates being one of them, now have the protective netting up from the end of the dugout, from dugout to dugout. And there was a big hullabaloo about this over the winter, how this was going to detract from the fan connection with players. It was going to take away from the game. Well, a week ago Wednesday night, my wife and I happened to get tickets down in the front row, and we were sitting behind the protective netting. And if somebody would have told me that there was protective netting there, I may not have realized that it was there. Because for all rights and purposes, it is transparent, and I don't believe it takes anything away from the game. And the fact of the matter is, as much as people should pay attention when they're at a ball game, they're not going to. There is far too many distractions, and especially with the Major League Baseball teams putting on the Jumbotron that send your, Snapchats, send your Instagram photos. We'll post them on the big board and everything like that. So, they're encouraging people to use their social media devices or their handheld computers, like each and every one of us have. So since we're not going to be able to get people to pay attention to what's going on in the field, I think the next best thing that we could do is make the protective netting mandatory, because it does work. As I was sitting there the other night, several foul balls came back off the bat straight towards us and were stopped by the protective netting. This has always been a point of contention with me with people in baseball games. I'm there to watch the baseball game. I'm not there to chat with people. I'm not there to play games on my phones or to look on Facebook. I'm there to watch a Major League Baseball game. But apparently I'm among the minority, and I have now changed my point of view when a 2-year-old being held by her father ends up, and she's probably going to be disfigured to a degree, but, thank the Lord that she did not die, okay? But I think now you've got all the justification in the world to make this mandatory, and it takes nothing away from the game. And if you have to do that to protect people from themselves or their lack of attention, I think it's something that needs to be done, and that's what's on my mind.
Whoa, thanks, Chip. You went pretty deep there. I'm also disappointed as a Bucco fan, but I understand the different things that cause that. But I also watch baseball, and I was intrigued by Aaron Judge, especially winning the home run derby and the fun he said he was having. Well, then I watched after the All-Star break, he went into a slump. They figured out a couple pitches they could throw to him and were striking him out. But yet, he kept walking. He kept getting walks, preserved his OPS, and just, I think it was yesterday, hit number 49, tying Mark McGwire's rookie record for home runs from 30 years ago, and he hit one more. So now he has 50. My hat goes off to Aaron Judge for solving that problem. He hit 13 home runs, I think, in the last so many games that he just come on strong. And, he does strike out a lot, but that's part of it, but he walks a lot. So he didn't lose his composure. He just lost his connection with hitting the ball. And that's what he's good at. And his coach says he just hits these home runs naturally. Joe Girardi was quoted as saying he's just a natural home run hitter. He doesn't have to try hard to hit the home run, and he's a big guy, and he's done well. But to hit 50 home runs and still have some more time left, that's awesome, Chip. So, I'm pumped up for things like that happen in the sport. I always like when records are beaten. There are some that won't be beaten, like we keep telling Smoking Jim, even though he's an NFL scout. He doesn't know baseball. In the 56 game hitting streak of Joe DiMaggio and the back-to-back no-hitters and how hard it is in this day and age of night and day ball.
512 wins by Cy Young.
Yeah, those things aren't going to happen just with how it is. They don't get enough starts to do it, just like Denny McLain last week. You were talking about Denny McLain, the last 30-game winner in the baseball. So, I remember those things, and it's nice because baseball's all about the facts and history, and we can reminisce and argue about the points of contention about what we've seen. But this is quite an accomplishment for a young man to hit 50 home runs as a rookie. So hats off to Aaron Judge and the Yankees there.
Good job, Alan.
And we'll be back with Chip's Trivia.
Yeah, that was one of my trivia.
I've shown an interest in making home movies. Me and some buddies would just grab a camera and you just start making these videos, and then you realize at some point that this isn't just a hobby anymore. It's something that you actually want to pursue, and there's this great facility right down the road, BPTV. A lot of people will try to do these productions on their own, and one of the things they don't have is the equipment, but right here is everything that you need in one nice little bundle. There's lights, cameras, reflectors, dollies, all kinds of little knickknacks, like anything that you'd want to use that you would need for a production, you have it right here. Like, it's all right here. You can make your own feature movie just with the stuff from this studio. Come meet Dave Cable, let him show you around, and I think you'll realize that this is something that you could fall into regardless of your level of expertise, whether you're a beginner or even if you're a more advanced learner. There's something here for everyone, and I feel that you just need to come through and just be a part of the experience and just watch and learn, and let Dave be your guide.
One of the things we do at BPTV is encourage our producers to film on location. Not only does shooting on location give our producers the opportunity to take advantage of their subject matter, filming in different locations gives each program its own distinct flavor. This also helps anyone who's flipping through the channels avoid confusion when they turn on BPTV. With around 500 programs produced at BPTV each year, the last thing we want people to think is that we're only broadcasting one program. So, you need to come into BPTV to pitch your TV show. But in terms of where you actually end up taping your show, the sky's the limit.
Welcome back, everybody, and welcome to my trivia segment. And first off, I'd like to wish a happy birthday to Big Mac. Chief, your dad's birthday was last weekend, and I just want to give a shout out to your pop and wish him many, many more.
Happy birthday, Jimmy Mack.
And I hope you enjoy my trivia this week.
Whoa.
First, I want to start off on Alan. Pointed out that Aaron Judge broke the rookie record for home runs in a season. That was stood at 49 home runs by Mark McGwire in 1987. And that record has now been officially broken. Aaron Judge hit 2 yesterday to not only tie the record, but to surpass it. So congrats to Aaron Judge. Also, I'd like to give a little shout out to Chris Sale, left-handed starting pitcher for the Boston Red Sox. The first pitcher in the major leagues since 1999 to have 300 strikeouts in a season. Well done, Mr. Sale. The last major league pitcher to have 300 strikeouts in a season, Pedro Martinez, and
Wow.
he is in the Hall of Fame. Is that where Mr. Sale's going to end up? Only time will tell. So that all being said, I can now work my way through some baseball trivia that goes from the beginning of the 20th century on into the 21st century. First off, September 20th, 1924. A name any baseball fan of any length of time would recognize. Grover Cleveland Alexander won his 300th game, and the Chicago Cubs beat the Giants 7-3 in 12 innings. Also on September 20th, 1968. One of the greatest players that ever played the game, and it would have been interesting to see how his career may have ended up, even though he is a Hall of Famer, had he not slipped on a sprinkler head and tore up his knee. But the great Mickey Mantle hit his last home run in the major leagues, a solo shot against Boston's Jim Longborn. On September 20th, 1968, Mickey Mantle had 536 home runs in his storied career. Also, 1969, another amazing event happened September 20th. Bob Moose of the Pittsburgh Pirates pitched a 4-0 no-hitter against the New York Mets at Shea Stadium. And anybody that knows the history of the Pittsburgh Pirates, tragically, Bob Moose passed away in the early 70s, and I can't remember the exact year. He died in a plane wreck. And that was a big loss to the Pirates, and you know, he's been greatly missed. And I thought it was worth mentioning. 1988, September the 20th, Wade Boggs became the first player in the 20th century to get 200 hits in 6 consecutive seasons. The Boston Red Sox pounded Toronto 13-2. Boggs also joined Lou Gehrig as the only players with 200 hits and 100 walks in 3 consecutive years.
Wow.
Now, that record was broken by what could arguably be said the greatest hitter in baseball history. Ichiro Suzuki had, I believe, 10 years of 200 hits in his first 10 years of playing for the Seattle Mariners. It's interesting to see what would have happened had he played his entire career in the major leagues instead of the first 8 or 9 years of his career in Japan. I think he would have made Pete Rose's numbers look pathetic. Yeah. I know my friend Jim right now is cringing, but I love you, Jim. Also, probably one of the greatest records of any sport ended on September 20th, 1998. And this is the second Iron Man of baseball, because the original Iron Man was Lou Gehrig, and unfortunately, ALS robbed him of his ability to play baseball and of his life. But Cal Ripken took himself out of the starting lineup and did not play in the Baltimore Orioles' loss to the New York Yankees, ending his consecutive game streak at 2,632 games. After nearly 16 years, Ripken said he decided the time was right to end the streak, which began on May 30th, 1982. 2,632 games, 16 years. He played every game of every season. Tip my hat to Cal Ripken, the Iron Man.
Thanks for sharing that, Chip. That's an amazing record.
That is an amazing record. Now, we're going to go to September 21st, 1995. Colorado's Johnny Vanderwall set a major league record with his 26th pinch hit of the year. September 21st, 2003. Hall of Famer Greg Maddux became the first pitcher in Major League history to win at least 15 games in 16 consecutive seasons. Leading Atlanta over to Florida, Maddux at 15-11 had shared the record with no less of a great pitcher than the man who the award's named after, Cy Young. Maddux pitched 5 scoreless innings, allowing only one hit, and that was his 288th career victory, and he ended up with over 350 in his career. That is a record of note, and I believe that's another one of those ones that we'll never see broken.
Yeah.
And also in 2008, very sad day, because, I know of Alan's love for the game of baseball, and, and also his love for one of probably the greatest players that ever played the game, and that would have been Mr. Babe Ruth. And on September 21st, 2008, baseball said farewell to the house that Ruth built. Yankee Stadium, the home of baseball's most famous team. What began with a Babe Ruth home run on an April afternoon in 1923 ended with Mariano Rivera retiring Brian Roberts on a grounder, and the first baseman, Cody Ransom, completing a 7-3 victory over Baltimore.
Wow.
So it got started by one Hall of Famer, and it was ended by another Hall of Famer.
Can't beat
I'll
that.
tell you, the house that Ruth built.
Yeah.
I felt that was worth giving a little shout out because, Babe Ruth had so much to do with the popularity of baseball in America.
Sure.
Just a few more here, and we'll pass the torch over to my dear friend Alan. September 26, 1908, Ed Rulbach of the Chicago Cubs became the only pitcher to throw 2 shutouts in a doubleheader, beating the Dodgers 5-0 and 3-0. Pitched 18 innings.
Wow.
The guys don't pitch 18 innings in 3 days, in 3 games. He did it in 1 day.
Wow.
What a record. The St. Louis Browns beat the New York Yankees in 1926 on September 26, 6-1 and 6-2 in a doubleheader. Now, what's significant about this? It's not the first time the St. Louis Browns beat the Yankees, but the 2 games lasted 2 hours and 7 minutes.
Wow.
So the first game
Quick.
took 55 minutes. The second game, a little over an hour, but isn't that amazing? A doubleheader played in 2 hours and 7 minutes. I almost, I was at PNC Park on Saturday night. That was about the first inning when the Pirates batted around in the order.
Yeah, it may have been, yep.
It may have been.
Yeah.
Also, September 26, 1961. There are some people that still consider this to be the benchmark for the home run record in a single season in baseball. Roger Maris tied Babe Ruth's 34-year-old record with his 60th home run, which was followed by number 61, which a certain Miami Marlin, Giancarlo Stanton, could potentially break this year. He has until Sunday. The regular season ends Sunday. I wish Mr. Stanton luck. Last but not least, Randy Johnson of the Seattle Mariners became the eighth pitcher to strike out 300 batters in a season, with 13 strikeouts in 10 innings in a 3-2 12-inning loss to Oakland. So, you think about that. In 1993, there had only been 8 pitchers that struck out 300 batters, and we had one do it this year. So
What a record.
there's my trivia. Chief, I hope you and your dad got a little something to chew over there. And once again, Big Mac, happy birthday.
There you go. Thanks, Chip. Trivia time not trivia time. Wow. I just wanted to thank Chip for that trivia. I still like the house that Ruth built, ended by Hall of Famers. That's a classic in my mind from 1923 to 2008. What a story. If those walls could have talked. Unbelievable, the games. All right, On Location. No On Location to talk about till October 9th. We'll be back at Olive Oil's Pizzeria, 930 Brookline Boulevard. We got some guests lined up. We have Bruno Sammartino's son coming out. We have Dan Bogan and an Andy Anderson talking about Muay Thai boxing, which Dan Bogan will be announcing. And we got a few more guests that haven't committed yet, so we'll give you updates as they come up. That'll be October 9th. We're still looking at a couple different locations, maybe locally here, so we'll give you the word when we get that. but we had a great show. One thing I did want to mention, since Smoking Jim's not here, is we had boxing at the Sokol Club on Southside. It was the Southside Showdown number 4. Great night of boxing with the fighters. One of our biggest supporters of Pittsburgh Sportsline, Keontae Irving, was the last bout of the night, fight of the night. Just one of the best amateurs that I've seen in the area over the years, and he's just undefeated. What a great boxer. We may be working on getting him as a guest and as manager with World Class Boxing, Tom Yankello. They may be here November 13th at our Olive Oils location, so stay tuned for that. But we saw some great fights Saturday night at the Sokol Club. This week we'll be doing Northside versus anybody that comes in the fight. This will be at the Priory Hotel, so check us out Saturday night at 7 o'clock. That's all I have for you. We'll move on. Chief, get your dessert.
Hi, Bethel Park. Remember me? My name is Jason Planitzer. I was the host of a little show here. You may have seen it. It was called The Jason Planitzer Show.
What would you say your experience with BPTV, how has that had an impact on your life?
I found my voice. I learned how to be funny. I learned how to create things. I learned how to collaborate with people here. I developed an interest in film and comedy and making videos. It stuck with me. It continued through my life. I got into working on motion pictures. I now I'll produce small videos. I'll work with producers on commercials, television projects, feature films. I scout locations on TV shows and movies, which involves me reading scripts, finding the locations that need to be shot, and collaborating with the director and production designer to find the perfect spot. It all started at BPTV for me.
All right, it's time to talk Steelers. I just want to tell you how my Sunday went. I get a text message by my text-only buddy, Smoking Jim Frazier. The Steelers are not coming out on the field. They're not going to come out for the national anthem. I text him back like an innocent babe. Why now? I hadn't really checked social media. I didn't know that our president called the SOB should have been fired. Fired. So this was in reaction to President Trump. Well, it shocked me because I saw quite the performance that was a little bit goofed up, excuse me, with the start of the game, and just shocking to me in the reaction to this. But I guess they all had to stick together because Trump attacked the sport, the NFL. How they did it, I don't necessarily agree. Who knows what goes on? But the thing that gets me is the competition was terrible. Playing Chicago, I say they played down to the level. The last 17 games that they played against losing teams, they're 5-12. Well, they lost again. And the game, the ball got jammed down their throats on the running game. They just looked terrible. And they come out and opened up running 5, 6, 7 plays right off the bat, gaining yards. So it was a shocking performance. Steelers just didn't have it on Sunday. Chip, I don't know what you saw, except you did tell me a little story on what you did instead of watching the game. And
it seems like, when Alan said he got a text from Jim, and I got the same text from Jim, and he asked me what my thoughts were, and I shared them with her, and that's not something I want to share on the air here, because I don't believe that that's what our purpose of our humble little show is. We're here to entertain people. We're here to talk sports, and I want to keep political agenda off of it. But, hey, I guess they didn't show up for the national anthem, and it looks like they didn't show up to play the Chicago Bears either. The Steelers' defense...
Well, what they showed up for was just to stand around a lot of the time.
The Steelers' defense was atrocious, and the fact that the Bears ran the ball down their throats, the missed tackles, the front seven for the Steelers, it was just terrible. And, there was the nonsense before the game started, which I was like, okay, I'm ready to look past this. I wanted to watch a football game. And about 10 minutes into the game, I looked at the way that it was going. Martavis Bryant drops a short touchdown pass from Ben. Antonio Brown dropped another one that would have been 6 points. And then I looked at my wife and I said, I got 2 buckets of driveway sealer in the garage. I think I'm going to go out and seal the driveway. So that was the way I spent my Sunday afternoon, sweating in the 90-degree heat. I think my time was better spent. But, again, like Alan brought up, the Steelers played down to the level of their competition. And, you look at it, I think I'm about fed up with hearing about how we have this world-class offense, how we have this top 5 future Hall of Fame quarterback, and he did not seem to be directing the offense very well to me. And you can blame that on whoever you want, but at the end of the day, he's the one that's taking the snaps. He's the one that's, running the plays, even though I guess, the offensive coordinator calls them. But, we've got a running back who is the highest paid running back and arguably the best running back in football, who has not played like that in the first 3 games. His performance has been, disappointing to say the least. The only member of the offense I feel right now that deserves any kind of mention, of course, is Antonio Brown, who has proven beyond any question of a doubt that he is the best receiver in football. So, the offense just hasn't shown up, and it hasn't really shown up the first 3 weeks of the season. And now we've got Ravens Week. We've got Ravens Week, and the Ravens got tattooed in London last week.
Yeah, they did. That was surprising.
By the Jacksonville Jaguars. And so now we've got, the division leaders, okay, because the Bungles are 0-3. The Browns, well, what do you expect from the Browns? 0-3 is like normal for them.
That's normal.
But, here's the question I have. At what point this season, if the Bengals continue on the path that they are on, will Marvin Lewis get terminated? I know how cheap Mike Brown is. He's the owner of the Cincinnati Bengals, and he's loath to pay somebody for not doing their job.
Yeah.
But will the fans let him do that? The Bengals are a severe disappointment, and Andy Dalton does not look like he belongs as a starting quarterback, and they do have A.J. McCarron waiting in the wings, who a couple of years ago in the playoffs against us, he gave the Pittsburgh Steelers all they could handle, but so did Mike Glennon.
Yeah. Yeah, you bring those things up. One thing that I wanted to interject is the offensive line is supposed to be one of the best out there. I'm not seeing them open up holes like they did last year for Le'Veon Bell. Sure, he's got some rust on him or whatever excuse you want to make up, missing all of preseason, but I haven't seen the holes because he's following blockers into other people. They're swarming against the offensive line and doing well against it. They're not blocking out and keeping people out. We had a couple tackles hurt.
Well, if you look at the statistics for this season, and this season speaks to how well you are, it's not what's on the back of your football card. That's
right,
how
your
well
history, yeah.
How well you are. They are a below average offense right now, and that means that there's probably 20 teams that have better offenses this year. They need to get it together. Now, fortunately, the Steelers are 2-1. okay? And one of the things that Bill Cowher used to always do was he'd break up the season into 4 quarters, okay? And there's 4 games in each of the 4 quarters of the season. And we could still end up on the positive note after the first quarter of the season by beating the Ravens this week. But when we play the Ravens, throw the records out the window, it's a knockdown, drag-out, street fight. Always has been and always will be. So am I confident that the Steelers can go into Baltimore and secure a win? I'm not confident like I would.
Their away game history is not as good as it should be. And with the problems that they do have offensively and defensively, which both showed up, it's shocking.
Well, the thing that amazes me, and I tip my hat to John Harbaugh, and giving credit to any of the Harbaughs is something that I'm kind of loath to do.
I'm shocked you're saying it.
But the Baltimore Ravens, I believe, have had more season-ending injuries to starting players through training camp and so far through the first 3 weeks of the season. How they've got 2 wins and 1 loss, it's a mystery to me.
Yeah. No, it is. The teams ebb and flow. The way their styles of play and, the way Flacco plays and things, he can play for big games and he sucks on some of these other games. You've just seen that history. The Steelers are notorious slow starters, so I'm hopeful that some of this will start clicking in when they go to Baltimore. I predict a Steeler win against Baltimore, and I think we can do it. We're just off just a little bit, but it's so noticeable. Like watching last week's game, it was terrible. I watched that whole game. Unlike you, I didn't tar my driveway. I wish I would have, but I didn't tar it, but I felt like I got tarred, because it was bad.
Well, the one thing I would like to see, and the Steelers, 9 sacks first 2 games. They were number 2 in the NFL.
Yeah.
Tied for second going into last week's game, which didn't go very well. But, Joe Flacco spent 5 weeks not even being able to practice because of a back injury. So, if we can get at the quarterback, we should be able to knock him out of the game. But, then that frightens me even more because it seems like the Steelers, as of late, have a little difficulty with backups.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's not like LeBeau, the famous LeBeau defense against new guys, where he'd hold them under certain yardage and sack them and be in their heads. It doesn't happen with this defense. But I'm confident we can win the game. The offense will come back. We got Brown that's on fire so far, so he'll do well. And then the others are going to have to catch the ball. Martavius Bryant's got to catch the ball a little bit better, and it's possible.
And what about the special teams? There was a botched punt return. There was a blocked field goal, which led to probably one of the best blooper moments of the season.
Yeah.
Because whomever the player was on the Chicago Bears that scooped up the blocked field goal and decided, because this is the way the world is nowadays, everybody is like, hooray, look at me. And he has to mug for the camera before he crosses the end zone. And Vance McDonald, hustling like a player should, knocked the ball out of his hand. Unfortunately, the Steelers batted the ball out of the end zone, which enabled the Bears to have the ball on the half-yard line. And here's where it even gets better, because the referees decided that there was going to be an untimed play because time had run out on the clock, okay? So then the Bears have an illegal procedure penalty before the ball snapped. So that moves it back 5 yards, and the Bears end up, luckily, only getting a field goal. And that very easily, instead of it being a 6-point swing because of the field goal that was blocked and the field goal they got, could have been a 10-point swing.
Yeah.
And,
No, that was just a shocking play as he slowed down. I'm like seeing Vance McDonald come up there and put that big paw on him and knock the ball loose right before the goal line. It was just an awesome performance and shows that you don't quit on a play.
Yeah, and if he needs to ask anybody about that, I'm sure Leon Lett is available to let you know.
There's many replays I've seen of that play.
Well, there was not only that one. There was that game in the snow against Miami where
Yeah.
where he had another one of those moments.
Yeah, he did.
So, that meant that it wasn't a fluke.
No. It's just in his DNA. It's his nature. But people get crazy there. I'm hopeful for next week's game. And it's just a shocking performance this past week. Let's get back on the winning track, which I think they can do.
Well, we got the Ravens this week, and then we got the Jacksonville Jaguars, who don't seem to be the doormat that they've been in the past.
No.
Because they did put it on the Ravens last week.
All the way in London.
44-14 or something like that. I mean, they beat the snot out of them.
No doubt about it. Well, that's the NFL. Any Sunday you can get beat.
Yeah,
it sure does look that way.
That's one of the things they always say. There's a reason why they play the games.
Well, we can criticize these players and say maybe we got the worst guy, this guy, but there's still special guys in the NFL. They made the NFL.
That means that they're the best of the best. But people that don't take their craft seriously, it makes me scratch my head.
Well, you see a lot of these natural talented guys, and they don't work that hard. They take it for granted. You can see it. You see it all the time.
Well, I was always told that your talent is what gets you there, but it's hard work is what keeps you there. And that's probably the reason why an average NFL career is, about 3 years?
Yeah, around 3. Mm-hmm. It makes sense. That's why we're lucky to have some of these players, and who knows, maybe age sneaks up on them every so often. Well, I'm hopeful for the offensive line that they can get healthy and get some blocking and win this game. And, of course, we need some defense. You got to have that defense. The defense will always be suspect in my mind this year. We've got a couple players. Hayden, does step up at times. But
it's not the secondary that we're concerned about this
front
year.
Seven.
And that was supposed to be our strength.
Yeah, so we will see what happens. And I didn't notice if James Harrison got put in with all this controversy. I didn't see his number. I don't remember.
And I understand, they want to start the young players. And I know that James Harrison only has so many snaps left in him. And, the Steelers are going to be fighting for a playoff spot and hopefully home field advantage.
Yeah.
Because it seems like the only way that anybody is going to have the opportunity to beat the Patriots in the playoffs is to play them at home, not in Foxborough.
Yeah.
So
I'm of that mindset too.
Tom Brady rose from the dead after the first week. 2 strong weeks back to back. Come from behind victory yet last week.
Yeah.
The Patriots look like they're on a roll, and it looked like the Steelers were headed in the opposite direction.
It surely does, but I'll ignore that they played down to the level this week, and they'll play up a little bit against Baltimore, so we'll see some action there and get that W. We need that W. Hey, you were telling me about some high school. I don't know if you wanted to bring up a couple high school
always
games.
Brings up the high school players of the week and everything, and I really didn't see anything.
I figured let's lightly go into this. You got the paper there. You can read off.
And I can go over the top teams in each division. We've got Pine Richland, which seems to be steamrolling everybody, with Phil Jerkovich as the starting quarterback, who will be playing quarterback for Notre Dame University next year. Central Catholic still in a top 5, as well as Mount Lebanon, Penn Hills, and our Bethel Park is ranked number 5 in the Class 6A.
Yeah.
You go to the Class 5A, and Penn Trafford's number 1, 5-0. And right now, I know Jim would be making all kinds of guttural noises. West Allegheny's 4-0. And has anybody heard of Gateway University? Oh, yes, they are 5-0. Ranked number 3 in the 5A, followed by Upper St. Clair and McKeesport. We get on to 4A with Thomas Jefferson and South Fayette, still strong. 3A, you got Aliquippa, always a perennial number 1 team.
Yeah.
Quaker Valley's the surprise of the season. They're 5-0 this year. Class 2A, the defending state champions, Steel Valley, still 4-0. Washington's close behind them at 4-0. Clareton, of course, owns 1A, once again, number 1. But the number 2 team seems to be a little bit tarnished. Jeanette at 5-0, and the game was stopped last weekend in their game against Imani Christian. Jeanette won the game 54-36. Okay, but the game was called. The contest was stopped with 4 minutes and 30 seconds left to play because of actions from players and also fans. Police were eventually brought in to calm the situation, and the game was stopped. Imani Christian was penalized 23 times to 14 for Jeanette. 5 Imani players were ejected after the altercation earlier in the fourth quarter. Now, those 5 players cannot play this week when Imani Christian plays Clareton.
Wow.
So it looks like we can scratch up victory number 5 for Clareton this week. The WPIAL reviewed reports before deciding to take any further action. And I just think that, I don't know what caused all that, but, it's a shame it had to come to that. Also, I wanted to make note of a local team.
Which one?
Beaver. Beaver High School has 6 pick sixes this year in their first 4 games.
That's amazing,
And,
Chip. I can't even believe that.
It is one of the craziest statistics of the first half of the Whitfield season. Beaver has returned 6 interceptions for touchdowns, all in the past 4 games, 2 of them Saturday when the Bobcats defeated previously undefeated Keystone Oaks.
Whoa. My alma mater.
There
What?
you go. There are no records to be found for interception returns in high school football, but it's hard to believe the WPIL has had many teams find the end zone on interceptions 6 times in the first half of a season.
That's got to be a record.
And
in
this is
itself.
from Mike White of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, who exclusively reports on high school athletics.
Like him or hate him, he writes about high school sports in the Pittsburgh area.
And the high school football is king. Last Friday night, my darling wife and I made it, walked the full 2.5 blocks
Did you
up to
make it?
Brentwood High School. And we watched Brentwood play the Avonworth Antelopes.
No way.
Yes way.
What happened?
Oh, well,
Give us a report.
Well, it was kind of a boring game in the first half because the score ended up 0-0. At the end of the first half, miscues on both sides of the ball. But
That'll
Avonworth got it together and put together a solid rushing game in the second half. And they ended up beating the Brentwood Spartans 20-6.
Wow.
Okay, but it just goes to show you, with all the nonsense that went on this past weekend in the NFL, the love of the game of football is always going to be with me, and I will always support my Steelers. But if you really want to get a good night's entertainment, you can't beat the price of the ticket for a high school football. $5 a head, and you can go in and you watch football. You don't watch people gyrating on the field. You don't have people running around. Look at me. I like the fact that they don't let the players take their helmets off on the sideline.
Yeah.
And in a Brentwood High School, there is no visitors' locker room. So, the visitors' locker room was outside of one of the end zones.
Wow.
And at the end, while the bands were marching, the Avonworth players were going through their halftime rituals. But apparently they got it together because they put 20 points on the board, and Brentwood was only able to muster 6. So, I know this weekend I would go back to Brentwood again. But prior commitments on Friday night, so we won't be able to make the game. But it is their homecoming this week, and I have no idea who they're playing, so excuse me for that. Never been a Brentwood fan. I went to Baldwin High School.
This is foreign to you.
Yeah, and I said to my wife walking in, and if anybody knows about the history between Baldwin and Brentwood that goes back 40 or 50 years, I felt like I was walking into enemy territory Friday night. But it was an enjoyable night. They've got a nice stadium, nice crowd, great environment to go watch a football game. I'll tell you what, you definitely get your money's worth when you go see a high school football game.
Hey, little trivia. I remember back in the 70s when I played football for Keystone Oaks, we did a scrimmage game against Brentwood. Went to their field, drove in the bus there, and went and played some football against them. So,
in all the years, and I've lived in that general area. I grew up in Whitehall. I now live in Brentwood, and I only lived a mile and a half from Brentwood Stadium. It's the first time I was ever in that stadium in my whole life, and like I said, it was a nice environment.
Well, I think they put a new field in. Because a couple years ago, I think they put artificial turf in there.
Yes, they did, and it is a nice field. Now, the interesting thing was on Friday night is that over at my alma mater,
Whoa!
the Baldwin Highlanders were not playing. South Park Eagles were playing that night because the South Park Eagles are playing all their home games at Baldwin High School this year because their stadium is under construction.
Oh, get out.
Yes, so Baldwin...
That's got to be strange.
Well, played... I forget who Baldwin played, but the unfortunate thing about my alma mater is you're never going to see them in the top 5 of anything.
Chipper.
They just they don't. They're not a football powerhouse. Let's just put it to you that way. I'm proud of this place I went to school, but you're never going to see them. They're not going to be like the perennial, top 5 teams like Central Catholic or Upper St. Clair or
Gateway.
The University of Gateway. Jim, they're 5-0. They're on a roll. I don't know what's in store for them next, but I'm sure you'll let us know.
Well, I know he watches the show, so you told us they were loaded, and they're winning.
Yeah, you know what, and good for them, and I hope that their role continues.
Yeah, very true. Hey, do you want to lightly touch on some baseball?
Sure, we can touch on some baseball. Right now, the season's winding down, and the only thing that's left up for grabs here in the National League is the second wild card spot. The teams that are fighting for it, Colorado Rockies, have that spot right now, 2 games behind them, the Milwaukee Brewers, and 2.5 games behind them, the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, we did throw a little bit of a monkey wrench into the Cardinals' plans.
Spoilers.
This past weekend, we took 2 or 3 from the Cardinals here at PNC Park, and what a fun game I was at Saturday night.
Really?
Yes, the Pirates started off, Garrett Cole came out and got hit hard. I believe he gave up a 2-run home run in the first inning, which seems to be what he has done quite frequently this year, is give up the long ball. Well, the Pirates came to bat in the bottom of the first, and 12 or 13 batters later, the inning was over. It was well after 8 o'clock when the first inning was over, and the Pirates put up a snowman. And I've been going to games at PNC Park for 17 years that it's been open, but I've probably been to 150 games in the last 5, 6 years.
Makes sense,
okay? Yeah. I've never seen the left on base number smaller than the number of runs we scored. We put 8 runs across the plate in the first inning. We left one run on base.
Wow, that's a rarity.
That is a rarity. But it was a lot of fun to watch the game. And the Pirates are still trying. They're who knows in what direction the team's going to take.
Well, I have a question for you. Adam Frazier seems like a great hitter, and he got some defensive skills. Now with his hitting, I think he's like hitting 320, 330, maybe 370 against left-handers. He's making a name for himself to be in the lineup. Is there a spot for him in your eyes? Because I'm wondering about it. I like his aggressiveness.
I wonder, and this is going to be some of the hard decisions that are going to be made by the Pirates over the winter. What are they going to do? Because I personally don't see any way that the Pirates can keep Adam Frazier off the field. Okay? Now, Josh Harrison, who's been the second baseman, I love Josh Harrison, and probably Josh Harrison is a better fielding second baseman.
Move him to third.
Frazier, well, and here's the thing.
That's my thought.
The latest update on our drunken third baseman, our Korean third baseman.
Dominican Republic he is.
He is in the Dominican Republic right now, and the Pirates are working with the team that he's playing, getting ready to play for. He's going through training, and he's going to play winter ball in the Dominican. He still has not secured a visa to get back into the United States, and there is no idea if he ever will. Okay, the hopes are that he will, and he has apologized to the Pittsburgh fans and to the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pirates had sent him over a batting machine in an effort to try to keep his skills sharp, and unfortunately, he donated that to
Oh, really?
charity or a high school team or something like that, which was a pretty decent thing to do. But the Pirates need to decide in what direction they're going to go next year. There's a lot of questions to be answered. Is Andrew McCutchen going to be on the roster next spring? What are the Pirates going to do with Adam Frazier and with Josh Harrison? Who is going to be the third baseman next year? If it's
Freeze
not going to be Gong.
Freeze
was signed to be a role player.
Yeah.
And, he turned into the everyday third baseman for lack of anybody better. But, David Freese is getting a little long in the tooth.
He is.
And he can't take the day-to-day pounding. So, you've got a player, you've got an overload of first baseman right now because you've got two power hitters that have played very well. Of course, Josh Bell, who's the Pirates Rookie of the Year. Unfortunately, he won't be the National League Rookie of the Year because Cody Bellinger of the Dodgers in a bigger market and his statistics were better. So you got Josh Bell that looks like the first baseman of the future, and you've got Jose Osuna. And Jose Osuna has performed well, but you had to give Bell more at bats, and he is a first baseman / outfielder, and Josh Bell was a first baseman / outfielder. Well.
They got to make some decisions.
On Jose Osuna, why don't we send him to winter ball as well? And if you can play first base, you should be able to play third base.
Yeah.
The same skill sets that you need to play first base would bode you well as a third baseman, and they should see if he could play third base. And then if not, do you move Josh Harrison to third base and Adam Frazier to first? So there's some questions to be answered
Second.
base, excuse me. So there's some questions to be answered there. Now the next question remains, what do we do with Starling Marte, who has been nothing short of a disappointment this year, even though in this last homestand he has been white hot.
Yeah.
Then you've got Gregory Polanco, who can't stay healthy enough to stay on the field, and he has moments of brilliance surrounded by extended periods of mediocrity.
He might have 3-4 games out of 10.
That's what I mean.
But he shows that, so then there's a gap.
There's the extended periods of mediocrity.
Yeah.
And, and are we ever going to see him healthy? I would hope that the trainers are working very hard to develop a workout program for him to be able to strengthen his hamstrings, because he can't seem to keep them healthy. And even watching him getting out of the batter's box, running down the first baseline, you can see that he's not running at full speed.
Yeah,
and
he's not 100%.
He's not 100%. The outfield that we thought could potentially be one of the best outfields, maybe not so much. But so there's a lot of questions to be answered. The pitching staff, I think the pitching staff's going to work itself out. So
they improved. The younger guys improved.
You know what?
Garrett Cole had an exceptionally bad year with the long ball. But
we've still got him for 2 more years of control. So I think he's going to anchor the staff next year, and we'll see. There's a lot of what ifs, and I think the only thing you could do at this time is, see what happens.
Well, I wanted your thoughts on it. I'm an Adam Frazier guy. I think he's got to be in the lineup. When he gets 2 strikes on him, he chokes up a little bit and hits that ball.
I personally think that Clint Hurdle has a dilemma. How do you keep him off the field? I don't see how you can.
Well, he's been working hard to earn it, and his fielding has surprised me at times when he's been in different spots. And hey, we've had a great show without smoking Jim Frazier. Chip, somehow we did it. Didn't really pause much for the conversation, and I must say thanks for watching, and please stay Joey strong.